What is going on, fight fans? Welcome in. I appreciate y'all tuning in this week. We had a bunch of different tiny issues that all added it to a collective larger issue last week with the UFC Vegas 95 card, a forgettable card in many respects, except for one particular way. Wouldn't you know it? The long shot legend is back. Matty Tanner coming in fresh, strutting into the studio, coming off hitting a long shot this week. I think I don't even need to ask him how he's doing this week because he's been riding high ever since hitting that parlay. But Maddie, I will turn it over to you because I want some thoughts on that as well as maybe some general thoughts on this card to kick off this great show.
Bro, so wait, we didn't do a breakdown last week, right?
Right, correct.
So we got to cancel the show. If I hit a parlay every week, we don't do a breakdown, then there's no more shows, bro. The shows are done with. You know what's funny is when you ask me how I'm doing, I told Gilbert on the podcast the other day, I was like, dude, this past weekend was electric. He's like, why was it electric? Because you won money? I was like, well, yeah, obviously. And he was like, you know what, bro? He's like, one thing you have to understand. He's like, I used to be that way. If I had a great day training, my day was great. If I had a bad day training, my day was terrible. If I have a good fight, my day's great. Bad fight, my day's bad. And he said, you can't always be looking at the result. And I was like, I know you're right, but it doesn't mean I'm not. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it, right? So the truth of the matter is you have to just love the shit that you do, whether we win or lose every weekend. We got to love the process, love doing it. But man, it feels good hitting a big parlay. I want to hit a way bigger one this weekend. I'm going to Hard Rock right after this show. I'm driving. I'm there for 3 days. PFL card tomorrow is live at the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, and then I'm going to probably just watch the 305 card in my suite Saturday and just chill. And have some people over, so it'll be a good time. But I like a lot of shit on this card. Like I like a lot of shit. I like a lot of plays, a lot of dogs, a lot of long shots. The main event's gonna be very interesting. I know you have a very massive play in the main event that we'll get to. And I have some big submission props that I like. I haven't even looked at the number yet because I know it's going to be massive. I want to discover what the number is on the show. It's a striker and it's not Adesanya. But we'll dive into that here. So let's give it a go.
We'll dive in. A lot of fun stories about that. First of all, before we move on, last week I texted you in the morning. I just looked through your long shots, probably just as everybody does, perusing what you put together. I picked one out. It was Toshiomi Kasama and Zalal by submission. I said, "This shit's hitting, bro." I texted you if you missed it on X.
You did, bro. You did.
Now my mind perusing. Unfortunately, that could have been a long shot lay that we put together on the show for everybody, which would have been sick.
I'll tell you one thing. So that parlay was 1K, the win 23K.
Right.
If I would have added Sergey Spivak to win by submission in the main event, it would have paid 140K.
Oof. I mean, that Spivak result, first round armbar out of guard, is something that I don't think I would have predicted in a million years. But Matty, you're right. We should move forward. Gilbert's right. Yeah. We should enjoy what we do. And some of my favorite cards I've ever done with you, we got smoked. So it is what it is. Yeah. Hopefully this one we don't get smoked and have a lot of fun along the way. 12 fights, UFC 305 from Perth, Australia. Feels like we're missing Volkanovski for this one, but I'm sure he'll be in the audience as well. Fun fights coming up. A lot of Australian flavor that starts in this first fight here at flyweight. We have a debuting flyweight that is Stuart Nickel coming in from Australia. He's undefeated 8-0 coming from the regional scene, taking on a guy in Jesus Aguilar that you and I were on in his last fight. A ticket I was very, very fortunate to cash. Jesus Aguilar is clunky, maybe best case scenario how I could describe his fight with Matthias Mendonça. Nonetheless, it all cashes at the window the same. He'll now be hard pressed though as a plus 180 underdog to beat the hometown guy here, Matty. What are you thinking as Nickel makes his UFC debut?
Yeah, I think this fight goes one of two ways. I think Nickel either wins convincingly or the dude gets fucking guillotined. Right. Like that's literally how I think the fight's gonna go. You know me, I love a good submission prop against a wrestler that's gonna come forward. And Aguilar doesn't even need guys to leave their neck out there. Like he finds those guillotines and those submissions. So I'm actually looking at this prop right now. I want to see because dude, if you throw in a submission parlay, there's no better way to do it than to put the first fight of the night on it. Because if you hit the first fight of the night, then you get to look forward to the next leg later on in the card.
Yeah.
Let's see what the number is here. It is 6-1. I think that's a very good number. I think that's his win condition here. I haven't spent a ton of time on this fight, but I think that's how he could win this fight as a dog here. And this is the hometown guy, right? Stuart Nick?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so
Nickel's
he
the
kind of
hometown
ruined
guy
the
from
UFC's
Queens.
plans here of putting this guy on. He's undefeated too, I believe.
Yeah. I definitely think that I like Nickel in this fight. Aguilar spent a lot of time on bottom of Mendonça in that fight, as I was talking
Yeah.
about. You kind of look at his career. It's hard to get a measuring stick because Tatsuro Taira was his debut. We've seen how good Taira is. And then he knocked out Shannon Ross, who's another Australian guy, really terrible chin. Like we've seen that episode before. So kind of to expectation outside of the Mendonça fight. And look, Nickel has shown on his regional footage. I was even able to find it in the 10, 15 minutes I was looking for footage. He can wrestle. In fact, it's probably a stronger attribute, but all of a sudden he picked up a couple of knockout wins on the regional scene as well. I don't know if I particularly trust Aguilar's chin. I don't know if I particularly trust his submission acumen. I know I don't trust his takedown defense, which is 40%. I agree with what you said, which is if you like Aguilar in this fight, I prefer a bet at the submission than I do any other particular path, because I do think he's kind of a sub or bust proposition. Unfortunate points is plus 145. I mean, I think if given a choice of Nickel points plus 145 and then inside the distance plus 200, I think I'd lean plus 200 while not particularly in love with either of them. So, I don't know how much action I'll have in this first fight. I had Nickel highlighted because I do think he gets the job done here, but the number came in a little underwhelming for me.
Yeah, so I look at that over under 2.5 rounds plus 125. I like the plus money there. I do like the plus money there. I mean, Nickel, obviously not UFC wins, but 4 wins by knockout, 3 by submission. I think that's out of 8 fights, right? So it's finished 7 of 8. Am I right on that?
Yes.
And I just think that the 40% takedown defense, like he's either gonna get taken down and mauled, or he's gonna find a sub or a guillotine or something. I think the under at plus money to me makes a little bit of sense here. I would maybe go like 1 unit on it. It might make my card.
Matty, I like that as well. Under 2.5 plus 126 instead of just taking Nickel inside the distance at plus 200. I kind of sneak in that Aguilar sub angle. I really like that. This is by the way, this is why I love doing the show, and hopefully you guys love watching the shows, because like I have these thoughts about this fight, but sometimes Matty brings up a point that I just didn't even consider. I do love this fight's total at under 2.5. I think it's closer to a pick'em if you're going to line this like minus 1.
And that's a good comment in the chat. Aguilar is a Cody Brundage of flyweight. He's going to pull Gilly multiple times and end up on bottom.
I think so. Dixon coming in hot.
Hopefully he doesn't give up DQs like Cody Brundage.
Yeah. And certainly Aguilar would have preferred to be on the sphere card, as Dixon pointed out as well. Instead, he got sent to Perth to face the Australian guy. Probably not a strong sign. So maybe the under. Maybe the under is what we cooked up in that first fight. So why don't we move forward here? We'll try to get through these prelims, because I know you and I have a lot to chew on with the main card here. Song Kin taking on Ricky Glenn. UFC veterans in this one. Look, I have a bone to pick with the matchmakers on this one that I'll get to and dive in a little bit further. But Song Kin definitely have their ups and their downs. Ricky Glenn, I think, famous at this point for his draw with Grant Dawson, which was the last time we saw Grant Dawson look human, in a prolonged fight, was the draw with Ricky Glenn that gave us all a little bit of pause. Now he's moving up to 170. These guys a little bit older. Song Kin minus 188, even though those numbers pulled back a little bit this week, because you kind of realize this is 2 old volatile dudes, but I think we can still find an angle in here somewhere, Matty. So I guess my question is, what do you see these two lined up to fight at 170? What's your angle that you think of?
I have a weird feeling on this fight, bro. On the Ricky Glenn side, I don't know. Like, I think he, there's a reason he's going up in weight here. You look at some of his wins. I mean, and then again, the Son Kanan win over Rolando Bedoya now has not aged as well. Right? I mean, Song Kanan got outstruck 112 to 75, against Rolando Bedoya, and he pulls off that decision win though, against him. And I just think that, I think Kanan's a little bit overrated. He has some good pop in his shots, but again, we talk about this all the time when guys. It's the Topuria fight.
Herbert that you were talking about. You talking about
Herbert, right? So Herbert knocks down Topuria on a lucky shot. I mean, not a lucky shot. It was a 6 setup. It was a 6 shot, but if that fight happens 100 times, that scenario plays out once, right?
Yeah.
So then same thing here. Song Kanon drops Ian Gary, right? Who's
Yep.
levels above him. And Ian Gary, he takes Ian Gary to the third round where Gary gets that late finish. But I think if Gary fights him 100 times, he probably finishes him in the first or second round and never gets dropped. I think it's a very similar scenario. And in this fight, I can't take Kanon as a minus 180 favorite against really most people in this division.
Yeah.
You know, he's lower volume, he's got good power. He doesn't have he's not that well rounded. I think Ricky Glenn moving up here as a dog is something I would look at. Like Ricky Glenn has like you said, the draw against Grant Dawson. Drew Dober can put out people. We know that. So it is what it is. I would take Drew Dober against Song Kanon. And then the Joaquim Silva fight, you know, Ricky Glenn wins in round 1 against Silva. So this is a tough one for me. I think it's dog or pass though.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't lay minus 188 with Song's money line. He's good to lose minutes and lose skills. It's just I have a red flag in general that I do not bet on fighters that are at least 2 weight classes heavier than they have been in UFC. Ricky Glenn meets that red flag. He started at 145 up through his first tenure with UFC. Really, he took a long injury layoff, came back at 155. It was that Silva win. Funny enough, I had a money line bet on Ricky that week, weirdly enough, and sure enough, he got like a knockout inside the first minute. Then, you know, I'm just a little worried about the chin fleeting. Drew Dober, a good point, has good knockout power. In his last fight, Jagos a little bit less forgivable as far as like a target. Jagos, another guy that has pretty good pop in his hands. I will say I think Song Kanon fits that bill. 1.29% knockdown rate, and a projection here has to go up when Glenn is coming up from 155 and Song's been fighting natural welterweights. So, you know, I was hoping for a better number. Song by knockout is plus 145. I think it's the easy, low hanging fruit after Glenn's been finished in his, you know, in his last 2 fights in the first round. So you think this guy's going to get mocked out of here. That's kind of what I think, but the price doesn't necessarily reflect that. Now, I will say my model always struggles with these weight transitions. It sees value in Glenn's money line. It's actually much closer to like plus 110, but that's comparing their stats mostly apples to apples, welterweight to lightweight. And I'm just worried about the chin. I think Song. I wrote down Song by KO here, but then as I like look at it on paper, I don't really love the numbers, so I may end up just. I feel better about the under we cooked up in the last fight now than I do about Kanon by KO plus 145. So what you said you had an odd feeling about Ricky. What method of victory would you think that he might be? Like maybe points, he's able to outgrind him, a submission. What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, that so points is to me is always attractive against Son. Because like I just think that, you know, he can rely too much on his power and not do enough. Ricky by points is 4-1. I mean, that's a good number on a plus 140 dog. The knockouts plus 550. I don't think he has 0 submissions in the UFC.
Yeah.
You know, he's won some decisions. He's won some split decisions, some very close ones. You know, Felipe Nover back in 2017. He beat Gavin Tucker by decision. Another split decision back in 2018. You know, I don't know. I mean, he's lost 3 fights in a row, but, you know, he's moving up in weight. Maybe those weight cuts have really hurt him. You know, he's, 35 years old. So I don't think we spend too much more time on this one, but I just think it's a dog or pass spot. I think if you play Son, you play the KO prop because I think he's tough to get behind on a decision at that price.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, man. That fight's got sketchy written all over it. So we'll move forward here because I think as a prop-based show, we are kind of designed for this because we're not telling you picks, we're not telling you money line. Shocker, guys, Tom Nolan's probably a pretty good pick to win this week. He's minus 1,400, the largest favorite on the card, taking on Alex Reyes. Now, am I remembering correctly that Alex is Dominic Reyes' brother? I'm pretty sure
yes,
that's...
He is.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. His older brother...
This is the card of the brothers, bro.
Yeah, it is because we got
Gilbert's
brother
on this card, Dominic Reyes,
Justin
Junior
Tafa.
Tafa, and then Tafa's opponent is
Johnny Walker's brother.
Walker's brother. There's like 6 brothers on this fucking card.
A little bit of nepotism going on in UFC, maybe is kind of a hit. But Tom Nolan's coming off a knockout. Got the knockout over Martinez. I even forget his first name now. I don't even know if he's been officially cut from UFC. Kind of forgettable. Victor Martinez. Victor Martinez is his name.
Martinez, yeah.
He was actually dropped early in that fight. That would have been a second straight KO if it had happened. KO lost for Tom Nolan, so now he's minus 1,400. You're a little worried
Yeah.
about the chin, but at the same time, we have lots of questions on what Alex Reyes might bring to the table now 0-2 in UFC. So,
Yeah.
Maddie, I'm curious your thoughts on this battle. Like, if you're thinking about a dog shot with Reyes, if you like a certain Nolan prop, something like that, because this is a really, really intriguing spot that they give Nolan, thinking that he's the home guy you'd like to win, but that stuff doesn't always
Yeah.
come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tom Nolan is way too hittable to be a minus 1,400 favorite against anyone in the entire UFC organization. I think this number is so asinine and ridiculous. Then again, you don't know what to expect out of Alex Reyes, who hasn't fought in forever. Well, I guess he fought in 2023, but then hadn't fought 6 years before then, right?
Yep.
So, Charlie Campbell, I would take all day Charlie Campbell in a pick him against Tom Nolan. Like, I literally would, because I think Tom Nolan's like, bro, I hammered Tom Nolan round 1 his last fight.
Right.
And I still think I got lucky in that. Like,
Sure.
it was really weird how he got that finish. He got hurt and then got the finish. And, the dude's talented. He's rangy. But, like, you kind of just don't know what you're going to get out of Alex Reyes here. And, let's look at the round props. Alex Reyes, the win in round 1 is 24-1. We see Tom Nolan get tagged in his last 2 fights in round 1. Tom Nolan, the win in round 1 is minus 165. So it's just crazy. If you go KO, you get Alex Reyes round 1 by KO 34-1, and you get Nolan round 1 KO at minus 125. So I think if you think Alex Reyes is done and you believe in Tom Nolan, then maybe you just go Tom Nolan round 1 at minus 125 on the KO prop. But I don't hate playing both. I don't hate playing the unit on that and playing a quarter unit on Reyes round 1, or even a tenth of a unit. Maybe you go 0.1 unit. We see Tom Nolan get hurt. And I think you could play both sides in that scenario. I'm assuming the over-under is heavily under 1.5 is minus 310. So have fun with that.
So fights minus 168 to not start round 2, which was kind of the angle that I was going to dig up. It's like, okay, how different is Nolan round 1 versus the fight just not to start round 2? Because then, you get any potential Reyes chin issues and things like that. But like, I think the unfortunate reality is Alex isn't a UFC caliber fighter. We saw him knocked out quickly by Mike Perry on short notice years ago at 170. I like Charlie Campbell too, guy that showed quite a bit of skill in that
really
Trevor.
like him.
Yeah, I like Campbell as well. Trains with a good gym at Cerro Longo. So it's like, the fact Reyes was out to lunch in that fight, I don't think is completely excludes him from being a UFC fighter, but 37, kind of inactive. Like, I agree with you. I don't know how you look at these Nolan props and you feel comfortable in it. Now, I will say, at least if you bet the quick bonk, Nolan minus 125 round 1, then you're not really paying as much juice on some of what could go wrong. The parlay things, the minus 340 to win by knockout, the inside the distance, the round
Bro,
1.
you wouldn't believe. I literally have people that DM me. They're like, "What do you think of this 4-leg parlay?" And the first 3 legs will be like dogs or like small favorites, and then the 4th leg will be like a minus 1,100. And I'm like, I just want you guys to. I was like, run the numbers on a 3-leg without the minus 1,100, and then run the numbers on a 4-leg with the minus 1,100, and send me both scenarios, right? And the guy sent me it. It was 100 to win 2,100 originally. It went down to 100 to win 1,900 without the minus 1,100 in there. And ballpark, don't quote me on the numbers, but long story short, wouldn't you rather get 19-1 instead of 21-1 and not have to sweat a whole nother fight with a guy that constantly gets hit or tagged? Like, people just like to throw they like to throw shit in their parlays just because they want to sweat another fight. And it's just so stupid, bro. It's so stupid. I love parlays. Don't get me wrong. Like, people trash parlays. To me, gambling is entertainment. Of course, I want to win money and be profitable. But like, don't throw a minus 1,500 favorite in your parlay. It doesn't even increase the payout that much.
Right. The subreddit MMA betting has taught me none of you guys know how to bet at all. FanDuel just absolutely makes a killing off of all of you because you guys just will throw, like, this week you'll throw Tuivasa and Casey O'Neill in with Jack Jenkins and Tom Nolan. It'll be like a plus 400 something parlay, and even if you hit it, it's like $20 to win 80. It's like, okay, cool. We're just going to take your money for the next 8 weekends doing that. It's like,
Yeah.
I think you and I do it the right way with props. I don't
Oh, I
really
love
like
it, dude.
those. Yeah,
There's
I don't
no
like
better
those
way
money
to get a
lines
big
either.
payout than a 2-leg exact outcome prop
Yeah, I
parlay.
think so.
That's it.
Yeah.
You don't got to pick 8 fighters to win. You just need 2 people and exact outcome. If you think about it, every big parlay I've hit in the UFC has been 2 or 3 legs.
Yep.
That's it.
Exact outcome. Now, let me tell you this. I'll move back on track with Reyes just before we move off this fight in
Yeah.
particular. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. We really haven't seen Nolan grapple at all. Like, you're talking about when you think about what you have to pay round props. You said Nolan to win in round 1 minus
Yeah.
165 versus minus 125. Think of the difference in implied probability there. Minus 165 is 62% implied. Minus 125, 55%. So you really think like 12-ish% of the time Nolan secures a submission. And if he's grappling at all, you think it comes in round 1, like against a black belt? Like, that's what I mean by you have to really consider the math behind some of these lines, because you're like, well, I'm scared of a club and sub. Should we be that scared of a club and sub? It's just like,
No.
Yeah, that's
Especially
the type of
not in
things.
this, especially not in this fight. Like Tom Nolan, he wants to put on a highlight knockout in this fight for sure. Now Alex Reyes does have 4 wins by submission in his MMA career. He's also never been submitted. You know, I think that there could be a world where Alex Reyes shoots in the first 60 seconds of this fight and just comes in and tries to wrestle. I think that we could end up seeing that. And again, we haven't seen him do that. He has a 0% takedown accuracy in the UFC. That's only in 2 fights. And that's against guys that just destroyed him, and Mike Perry and Charlie Campbell. So I don't know. I just think that, but if you go back to, he had an arm triangle back in 2015. Again, I know it's a long time, but he's not fighting that often. So it's only 4 fights ago. He had an arm triangle. And then before that, another arm triangle. Before that, 2 rear naked chokes. So he had a 4-fight stretch with 4 submissions.
Yeah.
So if you believe Tom Nolan gets reckless, comes in here, tries to get him out. Look what we saw last week when I hit my parlay. What's his name? Gassed because he tried to get him out of there in the 2nd round.
Yeah,
sure.
subbing
him. So crazier shit can happen, bro. I kind of want to look at like a 2-3 Reyes submission for like a 1/10 of a unit. Or I mean, at that rate, you probably just play the sub or play all 3 rounds. But crazier shit has happened. It probably isn't going to win. Nolan's probably going to win in the 1st round.
Yeah.
But if you want a good long shot, that could be live.
I don't think I'm betting this fight at
50 to
all.
1. 50 to 1 on FanDuel. Round 1 submission, round 2 submission, and round 3 are all 50 to 1 for Reyes by sub. That's crazy.
I'll see if they can just get you the Reyes submission prop at 50 to 1 general, and see if like we'll custom order that for you to donate on, because I mean, he's just so bad.
1, bro. 26 to 1.
As like a good submission guy relative to the general MMA population too. It's kind of interesting, but we will move on at the request of our chat, because there's only so much you can do with that fight. I'm probably not going to bet it. I'm just going to use lineup DFS. I'm going to roster a shitload of Tom Nolan. So we'll move forward here to maybe another fight that is a little bit hard to bet. Maddie, I know this one will be hard for you to break down because you have such a good relationship with Gilbert Burns, and this is his brother Herbert coming back for yet another fight. We saw him, I think I want to say in Atlantic City. He was taking on who was he taking on in that fight?
Herbert?
I forget his last fight that we saw him against. Yes, Arce. I was about to say Dan Ige. It was just another short name with a lot of vowels. It was Arce in that fight. Ended up getting knocked down in the 2nd round. Now he's taking on a guy that I've always really liked, Jack Jenkins, on his home turf. But this line's actually moved a little bit toward Herbert as the week has gone on. It's kind of played yo-yo a little bit back and forth. Jenkins looks like he's going to stay south of this minus 1,000 mark. Herbert Burns is a guy that has had some big explosive wins. I believe he knocked out Nate Landwehr with a flying knee. Now being disrespected here is a plus 48 dog against a guy that doesn't have a ton of experience. So, Maddie, as somebody who would have bias toward Gilbert Burns and his brother, I want to ask you, what do you think of Herbert's chances to win this fight?
Yeah, no, Gilbert was very honest on the show, and I see some comments in the chat there. Yeah, I mean, look, Gilbert was very brutally honest. He said that this is Herbert's last fight if he loses, right? I think it's pretty common knowledge that he's not going to fight again in the UFC if he loses this fight. So we get to see what Herbert's made out of, right? Like, your back's against the wall, and you're a huge underdog, and you're fighting for your UFC career. And maybe he doesn't want to fight in the UFC after this. Maybe it's not meant for him. There's more to life than fighting in the UFC. So we'll see what happens. I will say Jack Jenkins has given up submissions multiple times in his career. So again, this is another long shot submission type prop you could take on a dog here. Gilbert is on record saying that Gilbert has two brothers, so he said that Herbert is the best pure jiu-jitsu out of all three of them, but that he doesn't have the same genetics or ability as Gilbert, when it comes to pure fighting and boxing and all these other things and durability. So I think the fight's as simple as that. You either believe in Jack Jenkins or you don't. If you like Jack Jenkins, you probably go round 1-2 finish, probably KO. If you think Herbert can pull out a miracle sub here, you play him round 1-2 sub. And that's as simple as it gets for me on this fight. I think gun to my head, I'd probably take Jenkins round 1-2 knockout. But I would sprinkle on a Herbert round 1 sub. Anything can happen. What's crazy is I saw on social media earlier. You remember that knee he landed on? What's his name?
It was Landwehr, right?
Nate Landwehr.
Yeah.
2020. A round 1 knee to the face, knocks him out cold. A guy that is a dog and is extremely durable since then, right? He hasn't been finished since then. He got flying knee against Julian Erosa, so that's like his kryptonite, I guess.
Yeah.
But you would never believe that, right? Like, could you imagine a Herbert Burns round 1 KO prop in this fight? Like what that would pay? I gotta look now, just out of curiosity.
I mean, round 1, Herbert Burns has had no problem. Like, he had Bill Algeo in a world of danger in the first round. He had Daniel Pineda in a world of danger in the first round. Really, I think Herbert's biggest issue, Gilbert was saying physical stuff, has been the endurance. He ran out of gas against Algeo. I think he ran out of gas against Erceg, and I don't know. I'll have to go back and listen to you guys' podcast. I hadn't had time to do so yet, but show me the money over on your podcast channel. It's a good one if you can get in, especially if it's about Gilbert and his fight week, or in this case Herbert. And he's very dangerous in round 1. The thing is that I just really like Jack Jenkins, man. Like, I look at his efficiency across the board. The guy is a legitimate star in the making, and you look who he's done it through at this point. Jamal Emmers is a guy that I really like. He was fighting Shepe Mariscal up until he broke his arm in the last fight. Don Shanis was cut from UFC, not really a high level win in his official debut. That was also in Australia, by the way. I think he's a little undersized, but he's a grinder, and I think he's going to give Herbert the type of fight that Herbert likes, which is that Herbert will be able to pull guard off bottom. If I could find like a submission attempt prop in this fight, and I could get Burns at over a half a submission attempt,
I would never touch those props because the UFC they don't give anyone credit on submission attempts. It's always fucked up. I literally watch a fight and I think a guy has 3 submission attempts, and I go on the UFC scorecards and he has 0. Not even one.
Yeah.
So I would literally screw better than that. But Herbert Burns, the win in round 1 is 17-1. So if you believe that he's fighting for his career and he can come out and find something here in this first round, that covers the KO, that covers like a flying knee, and that covers the submission. 17-1 for a guy that has looked pretty good in round 1 and has faded isn't a bad flyer to take here.
Dude, I'd add to that and say Jenkins plus 270 round 2, plus 500 in round 3. Like, we've seen Burns hits a wall against
they're auto bets. They're literally auto
I don't
bets.
think Jenkins round 1 is the most appealing of those rounds. Burns is lost in the second in every single round, and really it's not really an ability thing. I don't even know if it's a durability thing. He's just ran out of gas. That has come over and over again. Jenkins pushes a really high pace. Auto play for me, Jenkins round 2, 3 here, because when you're that tired, knockout sub, it can go quickly as far as which opening might happen for Jenkins in a fight I think takes place on the ground. I'm playing both of those at plus money, bro. Like, I cashed round 2 with Erceg. I cashed, the fight after Algeo, whichever it was. Erceg. And then Algeo, I actually had Burns round 1 in that Algeo fight, funny enough. And he almost got it. He had 3 submission attempts officially, but didn't quite get it. Like, he's just kind of a killer be killed guy. Ends up fading in the second round. I'm playing mostly Jenkins round 2, and then maybe a sprinkle of round 3 just in case.
I think if you honestly just played every Herbert Burns fight, you play him to win in round 1 and you play his opponent to win in round 2, 3, you're profitable every time.
Matty, that has cashed in all 6 fights UFC. Jenkins,
and then you just have to look at the numbers and see if it was profitable, but there's no way it wasn't.
I might just do that, dude. Because it's like 17-1.
I'm writing it down on my phone. That's gonna be on my card. I'm going Herbert Burns round 1, 17-1.
Jenkins 2-3.
Jack Jenkins round 2 plus 270, and Jack
Yeah,
Jenkins round 3 plus 500.
I'm
And
doing it too.
do you think you just increase the value and just take Jenkins TKO KO round 2 3?
I'm just a little bit wary of that. It has
I'll
been
just
3
keep it
straight
rounds.
KOs.
Yeah, I'll
He's
keep it
got
rounds. Yeah.
Just because if it's exhaustion based, you never know if he's going to be able to get a rear naked choke in.
Right.
I don't know how different those outcomes would be. Maybe you crunch the numbers and decide to do it, but I think I'll just take rounds. So those are friendly numbers, but I think we've got the same dynamic in that fight, so it's good we're on the same page and such a sketchy kind of line. So we'll move forward here to a line that I don't think is sketchy at all. I can't wait for this fight here at women's flyweight. No one loves women's MMA more than me, and I think this is a good one here. Luana Santos minus 156
Yeah.
taking on King Casey O'Neill off consecutive losses here. Lost to Ariane Lipski and Jennifer Maya. The Lipski loss coming inside the distance. So Santos, the new kid on the block, coming off a submission at UFC Denver, got that favored shine against King Casey, who didn't quite have a good time in the rankings. So curious where you lie on this fight, because it was one of the first lines that I circled this week. So wonder what you're thinking.
Is this a dog by decision fight?
I think it is. I think it's a women's MMA dog by decision fight, bro. I already played O'Neill's.
Did you see?
Yeah,
I think women's MMA favorites are like 74% this year. Did you know that?
they're very
Don't quote
high.
me
They went on.
Don't
They
quote me on
went
the
on a
exact
run.
number. It was either 64 or 74. And I think it was.
Yeah,
I want to say it was 74. Um, but so I don't know. I guess I don't know if the dogs by decision has been profitable this year based off of those numbers. Obviously, if you're getting 3-1 plus on the dog by decision,
right.
it could be in a scenario where it's profitable.
Yeah,
But I'm assuming a lot of them are also like plus 180, plus 220. So I
yeah,
don't know. It'd be interesting to run those numbers and see if that's been profitable year to date or not. But I think this is
yeah,
a fight where you could go dog by decision here. Luana Santos just recently fought Casey O'Neill. It could be a very tough fight on the score, very close fight on the scorecards is the way I look
yeah.
at it. And let's see what that number is.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I basically just think there's a value proposition in the fight. We do this all the time. I think we do it specifically in women's MMA divisions, where like the shiny new toy is that Luana Santos, she's undefeated, 3-0 in these fights. Combined record of her opponents 6-10. So like she's gone through cans. She submitted Maria Agapova back in Denver, as I mentioned. Agapova's been submitted in each of her last 3 fights. So it's like there's a common to expectation. Juliana Miller, we know how bad her stand up is, and then she goes the distance with Stephanie Egger in a fight where she was having weight issues that actually got bumped up to 135 because of her own weight issues. She said she solved that from a medical condition, whatever. But look, I think King Casey's really good, and you look at the pace she pushes, 8.41 significant strikes landed per minute. Like she put a beating on Roxanne I'm going to say it wrong. Madafri, I believe is how you say the last name. I always say that last name wrong, and I get rightfully shit for it. But Casey Ennard was more of a grappler when she was kind of. She had that fight against Lara Procopio where she broke her over about 2.5 rounds. I really have liked Casey for a long time. I thought she could have arguably won that Jennifer Maya decision that was very, very close. And then I don't know what happened in her last fight. Ariane Lipski, since training with Amanda Nunes, has become a monster. She went the distance with Karine Silva. She was very confident on her back in that fight. It's like, who is this person? Because she's a different fighter. I'm not ready to give Santos this number against someone like O'Neill, who's been there, has the benefit of experience. And the thing is, like, this is now fantasy football season for me. We talk about players another year removed from their ACL injury. Casey O'Neill had an ACL injury. I think it was, I want to say late 2022 at this point. She had a pretty long layoff, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
I think it was March 23, and then she took some time off and she returned earlier this year. Now she's like a year and a half clear of that injury. I think the knee injury will be a little bit better. I think that in this spot she could be the better striker. I don't think the grappling upside for her is horrible. I like her at plus 122.
Yeah, and this is one fight you might want to. I mean, Casey O'Neill has a lot of finishes.
She
One, two,
does.
three, 3 finishes out of her 4 wins.
Yes.
So might be a scary one to just auto bet dog by decision. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know that I'll have action on this fight. I really just don't love it, honestly.
Interesting. I think I just have to me, it feels like a coin flip at worst. So I have to feel like I have to pick plus 122. Exact same fight later that I feel the exact same way about. Like,
Yeah.
the fact this is also an Australian spot. This is a short notice for Santos, by the way. So maybe watch the scale tomorrow. She was
Yeah.
originally supposed to face Teresa Bleda. Casey O'Neill was, and now Santos stepping in. So we'll see if
Yeah.
she gets through that. So interesting that you're not with me, but that's okay. It's women's MMA. You're probably not missing out on too much.
Yeah.
So we'll move forward here. Talk about the next fight up at men's featherweight. Also interested in Maddie's opinion on this one, especially with how the line has moved this week. Josh Culibao taking on Ricardo Ramos. Couple of cult fan favorites. I love featherweight, bro. These guys, it's just such a deep division. When you guys like these guys, Jordan, Sean Woodson, like all of them outside the rankings, I could make the argument it's the strongest division in UFC right now. And these are two of them. Now, Ricardo Ramos needs to watch his neck. He's been guillotine choked in each of his last two fights. Josh Culibao, a
Yeah.
favorite because he has not been guillotine choked in his last two fights. Coming off a loss to Danny Silva by decision in that fight. So both of these guys looking to get back on track. Culibao's got the hometown advantage here. What are you thinking, Maddie, in this one?
I'm torn on this one. I originally thought Culibao was a good favorite, but I mean Ramos is getting put away by guys that just are just subbing him in the first round, and that's obviously I don't think going to happen in this matchup. And I feel like I think he might have a real physicality advantage here in this spot. So I kind of think the dog here is live, and then it's just a matter of like by what method. I think if you go Culibao, maybe you go by points here. But I'm kind of leaning the dog spot after initially having a lean on the favorite.
Intriguing. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I didn't get a super convincing model result here. I've got Keely about 51% likely to win, so it's almost a coin flip in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things. So plus 124 with Ramos is solid. I actually already took the plunge with Ricardo plus 130. I bet him in this fight. I think the biggest thing is Culibao has one career UFC submission attempt. It was actually when Melsik Bagdasaryan slipped. He ended up converting that into a win by submission. He's not really a grappler. And Ramos is a black belt for as meme worthy as his last two fights have been. Like he's put himself in a bad spot. Remember, he had Julian Erosa hurt in that fight. You and I both were sweating Erosa's sub in that fight. He had Julian Erosa hurt, as many do early in
Bro,
that fight.
every Julian Erosa
Yeah,
fight, you just bet him by sub. It's free money. I've
exactly.
cashed on two. I've cashed on two straight on him by sub, and both times you can't believe the number. It's like 5-1, 6-1. I'm like unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that there are certain things you can't go back to the well on. I don't think you can go back to the well thinking that Culibao is going to guillotine Ricardo Ramos here again, especially when he hasn't shown the
Right,
tendency.
and I
And
will
then,
say, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you, but I just want to
go
say
ahead.
one thing. The Julian Erosa sub doesn't age that badly because he went out and then subs C-Rod, who has been very hard to put away in sub. I know the weight class, he's moving
Hmm.
up in weight and whatnot, but like that was a very impressive choke on C-Rod.
It
You
was.
know, it was a very quick submission. He had no chance of getting out of that. So again, I think that just gives more what's the word I'm looking for? It just gives more stock. I think you can get more stock in Ramos here, who you're like, okay, those submission losses, those last two really aren't the end of the world. They're against solid guys. I mean, Jourdain's going down in weight now. Did you see that by the way?
Is he going to
He's moving
135? Boy, he's going to
yeah,
be
he's moving down now after
skinny.
those
Yeah.
losses, which I don't understand. I mean, I think Gene Silva's just a monster.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, I think it's a dog or pass spot for me
Yeah.
here. I would probably just play the money line. I don't really know how he gets it done. Unless the KO here could be kind of a sneaky long shot play. Let me take a
Yeah,
look.
I mean, so what I have the fight 63.2% likely to go the distance, so a majority of the time, but there is some finishing stuff. Maddie, interestingly enough, I got Ramos 14.1% by submission here, just based on his historical volume. So I'm interested
Plus
what it comes back in.
470.
It's so
Not
I'm
really
almost right in.
crazy.
I'm in
What do you
right
have
in
his
line with
KO? What percent of his
Ramos
KO out?
7.1. I actually have Culie
So,
about KO higher.
so it's 9-1. There's not really
Yeah,
much there either.
I'm weirdly in line with the market on like the order here. Maybe I'm like off a little bit of give or take value,
Yeah.
but that's kind of surprising when I think method of victory is hard in this fight. But as far as who's going to win it, I'll give you a couple stats. By the way, Josh Culibao 0 for 17 on career UFC takedown attempts. Dude can't do it. So you know, is hammer the under on whatever DFS site you might prefer to use.
Yeah.
And number two, Ricardo Ramos, I think, is a guy that can replicate some of the success Danny Silva had. Was surprised to see he's such an efficient wrestler. 3.02 takedowns per 15 landed. 60% accuracy is actually 98th percentile in this division of guys who have at least 5 fights. So really efficient on his takedowns. I think he can control large parts of this fight. I'm leaning decision. I probably am not showing value on it straight up. Plus 350.
Yeah.
What do I have it at? I've got it plus 260. So like I'm almost right in line. It's weird,
Yeah.
but I laid the money line. I think Ramos is a good bet to win here, especially at plus money here.
Yeah. I mean, Josh went the distance with Leron Murphy.
Yeah.
That does concern me.
I mean, he
know
was dominated in that fight though. Like it wasn't really
Yeah.
close in
And
my
that's
opinion.
true. That's a good point because Murphy like had Barbosa out of there and he still didn't finish him. Like
Yeah.
I had Murphy by KO in that Barbosa
Me too,
fight,
bro.
and
What
that
else
shit
could we
was
ask for?
over. And he just took a beat down for 3 more rounds, and he's just too tough for his own good. He just didn't want to. I couldn't believe he survived that fight. So
Yeah.
I want to rewatch some footage on this one. I don't have an official play on the show. I think as of right now I'm dog or pass, but I don't even like that right now. I do think the over might make a little more sense than we're giving credit here. So, but let's move on
Isn't it?
to
Is
a
it
better
heavily?
fight.
Yeah. Is it heavily juiced though? Oh, I guess not.
Let me
It's
think.
plus 102 to go the distance.
I think
That might be a
the
nice.
plus money
Yeah,
there could make a little bit of
that's
sense.
nice.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because I think Culibao most likely to win by decision. So good point, Maddie. But we'll move
yeah,
on to sloppy heavyweight instead. Why not? Now, Maddie, the reason why I love doing this show with him, he gives me little tidbits like this I never would have looked at myself. I barely
yeah.
use my own
Block, one
Instagram.
second, Austin. 1 second,
Yeah.
Mike. Can you get that little peasant Anderson Cates out of it? Just ban that user. I'm tired of him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're mouthing off in chat, Maddie's gonna call you out by name. This isn't
You
like
guys
where
can
you
have
make
fun
shout.
and banter in the chat, but like, if you're gonna be a peasant, then just leave, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll
All
ban
right, he's
hammer you
gone.
quickly. But
Let's talk on this one.
Maddie, you taught me that Walter Walker has been on quite the cut since his last UFC fight. It appears that Johnny Walker's brother has
Yeah,
been hitting
John
the
Smith,
gym.
get him the fuck out of here too. Sorry, Austin.
Yeah, boy,
He's
ooh,
gone.
God. Hey, I mean, maybe this is a good omen because like we had a bunch of trolls before UFC 304, and that card turned out really well for us. So maybe it is,
100%.
but
We got
um,
650 people in the live chat right now. We
yeah,
appreciate everyone that is in here and isn't trolling. Like, try to add some value. Give us your picks. Give us what you like in these fights when we're talking about it. Ask questions. If they're good questions, we'll respond on the show.
yeah,
Like, this whole show is about trying to win. Like I'm not an expert. Austin's not an expert. You guys aren't experts. Like, we all try to be. Like, we're just talking through these fights. We like your guys' insight. I love Austin's insight. He gives the data, the model, the numbers. You can agree or disagree, but just stop being negative. So go ahead, Austin.
well said, Maddie. So back to the task at hand here. Junior Tafa featured prelim, kind of a normal spot for the Tafa gang here, taking on Johnny Walker's brother. Like this was the brother versus brother battle we built earlier in the show.
Yeah.
It is here. This line's kind of moved a little bit. You saw Walter Walker as a favorite earlier this week. Now it's leaning towards Junior Tafa. So you could have gotten dog money on either of these guys. I think there are arguments on both sides. I really do. So I'm curious to hear what yours
Yeah.
is and if you want to make a play in this fight.
Yeah. So I'm really torn on this fight. So Walter Walker actually hit me on Instagram and said he's winning this fight. Like, he told me he's winning. I saw his transformation video. Have you seen it?
You showed it to me. Yes, you
Yeah.
sent it to me on Telegram.
So if you guys haven't seen it in the chat, go to Walter. Just type in Walter Walker on Instagram. I don't know his handle, but it should come up. There's an Instagram reel. This dude, since he was undefeated going into the UFC, comes into the UFC as a legit heavyweight. And when I say legit, I mean he had a belly. And he literally comes in, loses that decision because he gassed, and then he flipped the switch. I made a joke on the Show Me the Money pod that he now looks like Jailton Almeida, and he's not quite as lean and ripped as Jailton Almeida, but he's lean as shit. He looks like he can be an absolute workhorse in this division, and
Yep.
he's brothers to Johnny Walker, but they don't fight anywhere near the same. Walker's a legit striker with crazy, just crazy unorthodox striking and wildness to him. Walter Walker is a legit wrestler. So Junior Tafa, I mean, we saw against Mo Usman that like you can take him down and you can keep him down there. And I like to think Walter Walker can do that. Maybe he can also inflict some ground and pound. I think around 2-3 here could be live for Walker or a decision. But I also think there's a world where he gets starched early. We see Junior Tafa has legit power. He's the leaner of the two brothers with more, I think more, because I always get confused. I used to always get confused who is who with these two brothers because they're in the same division. They switch fights. One guy can't fight, the other guy jumps in. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. But Junior's kind of the leaner, more technical guy, whereas his brother is like the heavier weight or the bigger guy with more power. I guess that's my opinion of it. You can tell me if you agree or disagree.
I agree.
But yeah, I think Walker here, round 2-3, if he's able to keep this fight on the ground and just wear him down, I think that's live. I think he's going to have a good gas tank and good cardio. But every second this fight is on the feet, he could get slept.
Yeah, that is true. Like, look, the reality is, and I actually brought this up, I think, with Justin in his last fight against Carl Williams. The Tafa brothers are a coin flip. It's a very easy one. They have not won a UFC fight that is extended beyond 2 minutes. You have 120-second sweat, and then if you get through it, the Tafas ain't winning that fucking fight. Like, that's what, and at this point, Justin has a ton of data behind that. And look, a part of that is it's not super technical. They don't use a lot of kicks, especially. You're not getting the best cardio. You're not getting the best shape. And I do think Walker and his physical improvements is a big deal in this fight when he did have early success with Brzeski. And I got to be honest with you, dude. I'm going to say something that's going to upset a lot of people. I think Lucas Brzeski is a better MMA fighter than either Tafa brother. He doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the one punch and go guy. But Lucas Brzeski is a good striker. We saw him double up Martin Budai in that category. Like, I think Lucas is pretty darn good.
Oh, wow. My boy Mike just put that on the screen. I mean, look, bro, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like he could fight a light heavyweight if he wasn't 6'6".
Yep.
He's a big dude, man. He's a monster. He told me on Instagram he's 100% winning this fight. Dude, I got to back him, bro. And I'll tell you one thing right now. Him to win in round 2 and round 3, 11-1 and 18-1. He comes in here in great shape, gets the takedowns, lands ground and pound, maybe looks for a sub, or maybe just lands the ground and pound relentlessly. He's live to win in round 2-3 here. I think it's a no-brainer sprinkle.
Oh, so Maddie, what do you think of this as how we lay this out on the card? Because I'll do the same exact thing. Primary play on Walker by points plus 270, and then we sprinkle round 2 plus 1100, round 3 plus 1700.
And maybe Tafa round 1 KO.
I'm curious what it is, because that might be one of those instances where do you think they're giving you free money on that? Because Tafa to win in round
plus
1
300 round 1 KO for Tafa.
Fuck off. He's not getting that. Not the sportsbooks aren't handing out 3-1 with his one win.
The other concern is if you do that, then Walker gets the takedown in round 1, lays on him, and then round 2 comes out and he gets starched, and then you lose all 4 bets.
Dude, I had the same argument last week. We didn't do a show, but everyone was all concerned because Sergey Spivak is skinny. Why are we concerned that a dude is about to enter a fist fight in shape? It's heavyweight. Who cares? It's not productive weight that he had on him. I don't think it's going to make him more fragile or less strong or anything.
Yeah. I think it's a very different matchup, but it's the same thing, right? It's like, would you rather be 255 with a belly or 238 with the same amount of strength and muscle and be in shape?
I've been both. I'll take the second option.
Yeah. I think Walker is a good dog here. I'm going to let this number keep climbing. I think you're going to see more money come in on Junior. I hope we can get Walker at like plus 120 and see what happens here.
Absolutely.
Again, I don't know that I'm playing the money line anyways, but that's what I would do if you're going to take the dog side. So let's move on to the next one. Get rid of this little peasant. Get rid of this peasant. Mattybetts sucks on YouTube, bro. These people get banned from the chat and they literally have nothing going on in their lives. So what do? they go and they make a fake YouTube account and they come back on the live just to comment.
That's
I mean,
so
that's
weird.
pretty sad, bro.
That's such weird behavior. Why don't we move on to the main card? Why don't we? And it starts with a guy that I think is on a lot of people's watch list. Another one of these fighting nerds guys, Carlos Prates, the Nightmare, coming back to face the Leech here. I feel like whenever UFC wants to build someone up, they did this with Hamza Himaev. They kind of feed him to the Leech, and that's what it feels like a little bit here with Prates at minus 390. Maddie, I haven't heard from you yet. You said you had a submission prop from a guy that we consider an extreme striker. I'm curious if you have it circled here because I do. And if we're aligned on that, then well, darn it, we just got to end up taking it. So is this your spot for your submission prop?
So hear me out on this. The Leech has never been knocked out.
Right.
Okay. So my original read was Carlos Prates could win a decision here. You know, how much money is going to be thrown on this dude blindly to win by knockout without even looking at the fucking numbers, the history, the topology, anything. Yep. People are going to blindly bet this dude by knockout. And part of my soul still wants to do that because he's that lethal. Like, if you guys saw that fucking knee he landed in his last fight, John Anik on his podcast said, he said, does that knee end my life if that knee hits me? Not me. He asked about himself. Yeah, like if Carlos Prates throws that knee to the body to John Anik, John's like, would I be dead? Like, that's how dangerous of a knee it was. It completely destroyed his opponent. He was done. This dude is lethal as it gets. I think he's an absolute superstar in the making. Like, he smokes cigarettes. People think that's a negative. He's been smoking cigarettes since he's a kid. He told me. We asked him we had him on the Show Me the Money podcast a few weeks ago, or maybe about a little over a month ago now. But he's just kind of different, bro. He's just different. There's something about him. I think he's a future star. His striking is unbelievable. His timing, his power. Yes. But I've watched him grapple. He has submissions. The Leech has never been knocked out, and the Leech could also implement a wrestling heavy approach here. You know, it's not something that he does normally, but you don't want to stand and strike with this guy. He's he's taller, he's got more reach, and he's got more power. Why would the Leech want to stand with that? The Leech is good power too, but I just see the Leech coming in and getting guillotined. I know that sounds crazy, but it reminds me of when Yuri would shoot a takedown on the cage against Poatan, and Poatan just yanks that guillotine. Obviously, he didn't finish it, but like, I'm getting those type of vibes in this fight where anything could happen. Obviously, Prates could starch him. He could win on the scorecards. He's not a very high volume guy. What do you think about his volume, his striking volume? I don't think I haven't looked at the numbers, but he seems to be lower volume and pick his shots.
It's average. It's about 8 significant strikes per minute attempt. Yeah, it's pretty average.
Yeah, I just think this dude is like, he's like a Poatan, bro. He's legit.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I think what I'll probably do here, I'll probably regret not doing the decision. I kind of want to go inside the distance here with a small sprinkle on the sub and just hope he either, knocks out the Leech, be the first person to knock out the Leech here, or find like a guillotine or a sub if the Leech gets beat up and, tries to wrestle or shoot or whatever. But let me pull up Prates' Tapology because obviously he doesn't have a sub in the UFC. But
so Maddie, I don't know how he doesn't have a submission attempt because on the Contender Series against Mitch Ramirez, he was in a sort of grappling, like he was trying to angle for a submission.
I'm saying the UFC never gives them the attempts.
I actually had a friend send me that earlier this week. They were talking about Prates' submission here, dude. I so agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the primary play. I found Prates inside the distance minus 125. Hammer that. And then sprinkle the submission on the side as well. Yeah. So, like, if you get the knockout, you paid a little bit more juice for it. But I do think the submission is live when Lee has been pretty durable. And Prates is a guy, like, I agree with you about the volume. I don't think his one punch and go power is sensational. It's like it's Poatan a little bit where it's placement over power, right?
That knee though is different. That knee is different. But maybe you can make the argument like his maybe his hands aren't the craziest. I think he has like a good hook. We got to see more, obviously. There's a good comment in the chat, actually, and I agree with this. John said the Leech hasn't really fought many KO artists, which that's a big reason. Let's be honest. The dude has 10 wins by knockout and 0 by knockout. But look who he's fought: D-Rod, Muslim Salikov, Ponzinibbio was a sick knockout for the Leech.
Well, those guys are all right. I mean, they got okay
Ponzinibbio is
power.
very good striking. Zaleski, but after Zaleski, there's like nobody, bro. I mean, there's just nobody. So I agree that he hasn't really fought tons of power punchers. He definitely hasn't fought anybody with the level of striking that Carlos has here. I guess you could argue Ponzinibbio back in, a few years back. He's a little, he's getting on the older side now. But I just think Carlos, has insane striking. So I'm gonna probably play inside the distance here.
Yeah.
I just have a weird feeling that people are gonna hammer the KO and like something could happen. So Carlos has a few rear naked chokes back in the day. I think he had an arm bar as well. Let me check that out right now.
Yeah, dude. I think if anything, if we have successfully convinced our audience, if you were gonna bet Prates KO and now you're gonna do inside the, if you pay $125 to bet inside the distance instead of plus 105 on knockout, and say Maddie and I are right, you're gonna be so
I
happy
don't think
that
it's
you
that
did that.
drastic though. Oh yeah, so it's even money on the knockout.
Yeah, and minus 130 on inside the distance. I actually found a better
Dude,
number.
I
So
didn't think it'd be
yeah.
that big of a difference. I thought it would be like a 10-cent difference. That
So
shows you it's live.
yeah, I don't even know if the math lines up with like the prop
It
versus the
doesn't. That's
difference
fishy as
between those
shit,
two.
bro.
Yeah,
I
it is
literally
weird.
thought it was gonna be like knockout minus 110 and inside the distance minus
Yeah.
120.
Yeah, so FanDuel is saying it's 7.1% likely that Protest wins by sub. And I just think it's higher than that. I think it's at
The
least 10%.
13-1 that like lines up.
I mean, he's a fighting nerds guy. He knows how to grapple. Period.
I'm taking it, bro. I'm
Yeah.
taking it. So
I
hear
think
me out on
yeah.
this. Hear me out on this. Imagine a sub lay with Carlos by sub and
We got to get to
either
the show. We got to get to the end of the show. Let's
either
get to the end of the show.
Herbert or Reyes by sub.
Oh, get out of here.
Not
Hey,
both
on
of them,
both.
but one of them.
I know. Yeah, I Herbert probably more likely than Reyes. I will allow a
I'm
Herbert
down for
argument. I
that.
will not.
Herbert by
Okay.
sub and Prates by sub.
All
That
right.
would pay a fucking that would pay a fortune, bro.
Yeah. All right. We'll move forward with that. At least I talked him about playing Alex Reyes in any fashion. But let's move to this fight, Maddie, which is I have a wonky angle in this one.
Yeah.
Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Tuivasa. Biggie Boy was the benefactor of Shamil Gaziz's failing cardio in one of the worst main events in UFC history. Tuivasa on a 4-fight skid. 4-fight losing skid for him, the last one of which perhaps the saddest, a first-round submission loss to Marcin Tybura, his first in UFC. So it doesn't appear that Ty is trending in the right direction going into this fight. That's probably why he's plus 176 to win it. The question is, how do you feel about Biggie Boy at minus 230 in a heavyweight fight between really two of its best power punchers in the division?
Yeah, so I've gone back and forth on this fight, and there's just no scenario where I could pay the juice on Biggie Boy here. We look at Ty. I just made a video on this actually that's going out on social media, hopefully tonight or tomorrow. But I'm tied to Tuivasa here, bro. He's lost 4 fights in a row. I understand all of that. The only fight that is questionable is the Tybura fight. His other 3 losses are guys that either have or would destroy Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Volkov, Ciryl Gane, and Pavlovich. 2 of them 3 have
That's a good point.
destroyed Jairzinho. Pavlovich would destroy Jairzinho. And when you get Ty Tuivasa and you look at this matchup, like Jairzinho is the more technical kickboxer, but Tai Tuivasa is taller, he's bigger. The reach actually favors Jairzinho, but Tuivasa I think is very underrated speed in his hands, and he has a good chin. Now, if he's getting destroyed by Ciryl Gane and hit to the body over and over, like yeah, he's gonna get put away. But when we're talking about one punch put away, like what happened when he fought Derek Lewis? 2 big boys coming at each other. Tai Tuivasa's chin held up. Derek Lewis didn't. Jairzinho is a more technical version of Derek Lewis with, better overall striking and less power. I just think I'm going to play Ty round 1-2 KO here. He's going to walk forward. He's been training in, is it Abu Dhabi? Or not Abu Dhabi? Not Abu Dhabi. Where's he training? Hopefully someone in the
hopefully
chat.
someone knows. This is the first I've heard of
He
it.
talked about it at the press conference. Someone in the chat can tell us, hopefully. But long story short, he said that he's basically drowned all distractions. When he trains where he normally does, he's got family and birthday parties and he's a very social party guy, like he basically ended up Dubai. Thank you, Mountain Time MMA in
Yeah,
the chat. Yeah, so he's trained in Dubai for this fight. And I think he's locked in. He's in a situation where I don't think he's gonna get dropped. It's tied to Tuivasa. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere. But what's next if you lose this fight? You're fighting lower level, heavyweights. I think the UFC wants to build him back up here. In fights against non-grapplers, plus 180
yeah.
is a slap in the face to me.
Yeah, dude. I had early in my breakdown that I gave out, by the way, on the Home of Fight Discord. If you haven't joined yet, my picks, Maddie's picks, Hey Jive and Nolan, the Parlay MMA on there, as well as JJ, who does a lot of work for our show, at the Octagon Kings. A lot of good picks in that Discord. Everything that Ty has struggled with recently, Jorginho doesn't really bring. Like Cyril Gahn and his excellent. I mean, Rozenstruik's footwork is pretty good, but it's not Cyril Gahn's footwork. It's not Sergey Pavlovich. The thing that's underrated about him in these first rounds has been his output, much less the power. You're not going to get that output from Biggie Boy Rozenstruik, 3.44 significant strikes per minute. How many times have we seen this dude in a staring match in a 25-minute main event? Like,
Yeah.
Rozenstruik's not a high volume guy. And then obviously none of the grappling danger with zero career submission attempts or takedown attempts. So, like, what are we afraid of to take Tai Tuivasa plus 180 and what feels like a coin flip? Now, I'm gonna have an interesting angle in that I think this fight's a little bit undervalued to be one of those heavyweight staring matches. You remember the Ngannou Derek Lewis fight that was
Yeah.
terrible? Tai Tuivasa 4-fight skid needs one badly in his hometown. Rozenstruik is never this high volume guy. I wonder if we get a little bit of a patient staring match here. Now, it's either going to go one of two ways. You're going to get a knockout blitz, in which, by the way, I kind of would favor Ty if this was fast and frantic early. I think his chin is better. I think his volume is better. And I think his hand speed might be a little bit better. But then you might get like a prolonged fight like he had against Derek Lewis, Tuivasa did until the second round. In fact, actually, 6 of these two's 28 combined UFC fights, 6 of 28 have gone at least the third round or later. So I think that length can be on the table. I've got this fight 34% likely to see all 15 minutes. Fight is plus 400 to go the distance. I kind of like that. Now, it could be pretty ugly as far as picking a side. Do I do Tuivasa decision or Rozenstruik decision? I kind of like the fight to go the distance, but I've also laid Ty's money line, so naturally I kind of lean that way. Where I think Ty wins pretty convincingly early. I think he can win late. Ty by points, by the way, dude, is plus 1,000 here. I thought you'd like that as a long shot guy.
I was
It's
just
like,
looking. So I do
yeah,
think there's a world that Jarzinho just stays on the outside
yeah,
and wins by points, which is 7-1.
yeah,
If it's in a 3-rounder, I think that's very live.
yeah,
So I honest to God may play that too. I may play Tuivasa round 1-2 and Jarzinho just by points. I think that's a live angle
yeah.
here that no one's talking about.
Yeah, my favorite angle is Ty though. I like him better where it goes. I've got Rozenstruik 52.4% likely to win. Guys, I just don't really buy what Rozenstruik is selling. The Shamil Gaziv win, before that his win was a first round KO of Chris Dawkins. Everybody's doing that. Got the Augusto Sakai win. He's lost to everybody else around here. Got another on Junior Dos Santos. How many ranked heavyweights is this dude putting out? Like
Yeah.
it's not really a long
The
list. We
most
saw, yeah,
impressive win for him was in 2019, the round
over him,
5 over him. That
where
was
he split his
I
lip
honestly
open. Yeah.
saw that clip on social media the
Yeah,
other day, and I was like, "Oh, fuck." Like,
yeah,
it made me start thinking about, like, is he gonna just is he gonna put Ty away late here, like round 2, 3 or something?
yeah,
I don't know. I'm going with Tuivasa as the pick. I'm going with round 1, 2.
yeah,
Um, I don't hate a decision play for either guy, especially when you have guys that have gotten finished a lot recently and have a lot of pressure on them. And Tuivasa did say when he got interviewed the other day that he may need to come out smarter and not do his. But I just feel like when he gets out there, like, come on, brothers, he's not going to do that. You got to do what makes you who you are, And
yeah,
I think that's what Tuivasa is going to do. I love the round 2 number for Tuivasa. It was very
yeah.
good number. Hold on,
Y'all are
it
gonna be
is.
wishing you tailed me when Ty pulls out a few double legs and ends up sitting on
Bro, are
Rozenstruik
you
for 10.
kidding me? 11-1? 11-1 for Tuivasa to win by knockout in round 2. That is
Mm.
unbelievable of a number.
That would get my hopes up that this fight had a little length to it. But like, so I like Ty. I like a little bit of length. It sounds like you and I are mostly aligned on that. Maybe
Yeah.
Tuivasa
Look
is
at
the
Ty's last two wins. Round 2 KO, round 2 KO.
yeah.
Derek Lewis and Augusto Sagai. And then the three before were round ones, but they were cans. Like Greg Hardy, Harry Hunsucker, so like anyone that's decent, when he wins, it's round 2. Everyone else that he's beaten in round 1 have been like very lower level.
I'm sorry, bro. Rozenstruik's closer to Harry Hunsucker than he is Cyril Gahn. That's just my opinion.
No.
Yeah,
No.
dude. I've just always felt Rozenstruik doesn't offer a whole lot, like especially when he's not
If you really
particularly well
believe
rounded.
that, Tai Tuivasa should be like a 5-unit play for you. At
I
this
I have
price?
three. I have three.
Okay.
I have three.
Respect.
I think Ty's. I think Ty's better. I do think Ty's
Yeah.
better. So we'll put
Respect.
my money where my mouth is. In fact, I already have. So why don't we move forward here, Maddie?
Last
Because this
thing
is
last
another.
thing I'll say.
Yeah,
Last thing I'll say. A rewind way back to Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho.
yeah,
What was the key for? Obviously, it's Francis Ngannou. I get that, but what did Francis Ngannou did? This was the non-technical Francis Ngannou from years
yeah.
ago that
Just walked.
didn't box technically at all. He just came forward and threw 4 haymakers with no technicality in his shots at all, just haymakers. And the first 3 shots hit the air, and the fourth one put Rozenstruik out. Why can Tuivasa not do that?
I mean, yeah, I think he absolutely could, and like it's in Perth, Chewy waiting. Like, come on. I mean, I totally get you. So
You gotta make
maybe we'll
it,
cook
yeah.
something up.
So we'll
Yeah.
move on. We'll move on. This is
Well,
a good
so
one.
we need an updated picture of Dan Hooker. He is tatted out now. Dan Hooker has been
Yeah.
on the table getting ink done nonstop since his last fight, and now he's taking on Mattybetts Gamrot, third to last fight, ranked lightweight clash. I think weirdly close to a title fight when Gamrot has a win over Armin Saryukian. Saryukian getting the title fight next. Mattybetts a minus 360 favorite here because he's a tough out, reliable style. We know how he's going to approach this fight. I guess my question for you, Maddie, is do you think Dan Hooker at plus 260 has enough tools for you to be interested in a dog shot, or do you have a specific way you might want to deploy Gamrot here?
Dan Hooker is the fool's dog of the week, bro. Everyone is talking about how Gamrot is getting tagged in all of his fights. RDA, blah, blah, blah. All these fights. Dan Hooker's so hittable. Let me explain something to you. What happened when Dan Hooker fought Islam Makhachev? He couldn't do anything. You can make the argument that Gamrot's wrestling is right up there with Islam's. And Gamrot, when you hear him talk, he don't give a fuck about all these rumors in the UFC about, oh, you got to make fights entertaining. Wrestlers
Yes.
can't just wrestle. This dude is going to shoot in the first 30 seconds. Yes, he's got to avoid a knee. I understand that. I think Dan Hooker's one win path is a knee to the face. I think Gamrot absolutely ragdolls Dan Hooker. I actually believe that a submission could be live here because Gamrot, we were talking about this on the podcast with Gilbert. Like Gamrot's a control grappler. He's not finishing guys on the ground.
Yeah.
But this is what he's ranked number 4 or 5 against 11, whatever the number is. And
Yeah.
if you're Gamrot, you got to get a finish here, bro. You got to get a finish here. You want to fight Armin Sarukian or you want to fight for the belt, like you got to get a finish in this spot. And I think that, Hooker, I think his grappling defense is decent, but like if you have this dude on the ground the whole fight, you're going to have a lot of opportunities here. Maybe he's up 2 rounds and it's late and Dan Hooker's got to gamble to get to his feet or give up his back. I don't know. I just think the sub here could be live. And I know chat, you can tell me that I'm a lunatic because I just love subs in so many scenarios. And it's just overall the shittiest MMA bet ever.
You did
Except
just
for
win
last weekend.
23 grand
I did
betting
win
2 subs.
with 2 subs. So. But generally speaking, the subs will break your heart when in this sport, bro. When you see all the bad beats that happen when you have a submission prop, the ground and pound, the rear naked chokes that are sunken in and they escape. I mean, just so many things happen. But I will tell you one thing, Gamrot's not really a submission guy. I understand that. I just think that there is a chance that he could get it done here. Or it's just a unanimous decision. He wins all 3 rounds.
Yeah.
That's my prediction of the fight.
Maddie, and can I get can you put a dollar sign in chat if you're as surprised as I am that Mattybetts did not pull the trigger? Dan Hooker 17-1 by submission when knows Gamrot's gonna shoot. He's got 2 guillotine chokes. He's got 2 guillotine
0.
chokes in UFC. Hooker has that. He's
Hooker is
got the
so
hangman
high
leg.
level, bro. He is so high level with his grappling. So high level.
Hooker or
He
Gamrot?
Gamrot.
Oh, you said Hooker. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Gamrot
Look at these
is
dollar
so
signs in chat. You bailed. You
Gamrot is
bailed on the
so high.
Mattybetts
Gamrot
philosophy.
is so high level with his grappling, bro. Unbelievable grappling. Let's
Yeah.
not forget this dude did. He beats Armin Sarukian back in 2022. How well is that aged? Very well. This dude's
Yes.
grappling is unbelievable.
Hey,
Made
I'm a
RDA
Gamrot fan.
outside of getting tagged once against RDA. RDA didn't stand a chance in that fight. I think that Gamrot should be like minus 600. I really do.
Oh, I mean, like, I'm a Gamrot guy, so, like, I totally get it, but I think weirdly as I sat and I marinated on this matchup, Hooker is almost the antithesis to Gamrot. He is the bad matchup in the top 15 for Gamrot in that he is a better fighter than Dan Hooker is. Yeah, there's the ink on Dan Hooker. He's got a lot of tattoos now, man. I was surprised to see the weigh-in photo there. He really has come together. But like, I think that Hooker in this spot, 80% takedown defense. That's through 21 UFC fights. Guys have tried to take this dude down since he got here at 6 feet tall because you didn't want to stand with him. He's got the knees. He's got the guillotine chokes. I'm like, what happened to my buddy Matty? He's got all these tools where it just takes one of these moments for Hooker to end up winning. Um, I, I,
When
I,
when
like,
Hooker's submission was what 2017 against Mark Casey?
yeah, but he hasn't had a lot of guys shooting on him recently. Like, you look at Hooker's last few fights, the Arnold Allen disaster. I know Islam Makhachev got the best of him, like, on a few
Yeah.
days' notice. Now, the Michael Chandler chin thing, like, I'm worried as heck about Dan Hooker's chin, but he's not the guy I have chin concerns about here. It's Gamrot, who, as you said, he's been dropped in 4 of his last 5 fights. Like, I've got Gamrot at minus 135, dude, here. Hooker was one of my. I'm just waiting to bet this fight because Hooker just keeps going up and up and up. Like, I'm gonna bet a unit on Hooker like plus 300, bro. The thing is, my model might be wrong about that, but what it does see about Gamrot, it sees the knockdown vulnerability. It also sees the fact that he goes to a decision constantly. He doesn't really separate himself with these finishes or these impactful moments. You can really, if he gets dropped in a round, like this is what happened against RDA. He got dropped in the first round. He didn't even cover the point spread in that fight. I think it very easily could happen again here with Hooker, bro, where he doesn't end up covering this number. He may end up winning it. Like, I think you might be all right, but I think Hooker's the side at these odds.
Yeah. I don't know. I understand the thought process. I just think that the same can be said for Gamrot being a very bad, matchup for Dan Hooker. Like,
How
it's just
so?
funny how MMA works because Dustin Poirier can fight Dan Hooker and it can be the fight of the year where both guys get damaged so much. But then you have a guy like Gamrot who isn't going to do that type of fight. He's just going to take this dude right to the ground. Dan Hooker's 80% takedown defense is a bunch of bullshit, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, that 80% takedown number means absolutely nothing to me.
He
A
hasn't
lot
fought a
of it's
guy like
because
him.
Islam Makhachev was one and done. If
Yep.
he can get back to his feet against Islam, he probably gets taken down 6 times.
Yeah.
Michael Chandler starched him in the first round. That was because it was after that Poirier fight. So I don't even hold that against Hooker and don't put any of that has nothing to do with my handicap here.
Yeah.
That when you fight Dustin for 5 rounds and go to the hospital after, and then you come in your next fight and have to fight Michael Chandler and you
Yeah.
get knocked out in the first round, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I like Dan Hooker. I'm a fan of him. He's entertaining. But I think this is a very bad matchup for him. The same way people say that Gamrot's or Hooker's a tough matchup for Gamrot. I think it's the other way around.
I will say this, Manny. If you're right about Gamrot and he ends up dominating Hooker here, I think you got to put him next in line for the lightweight title. He's
I think
beaten
that's
too
what
many
he's
high
doing
level
here.
guys. He's
Yeah.
got to win over Saryukin. Like, he's going into enemy territory here. I think it's a worthwhile risk for Gamrot. But I just have a gut feeling about Hooker. So we'll move on here. We got 2 more fights, Matt. We got to get through them for everybody so we don't keep the people too
All
long.
3 city kickboxing, right? The last 3.
Yep. Last 3. So we got Dan Hooker. Here's another one with Kai Kara France at flyweight against my guy Steve Erceg, who I have a ticket on to be the flyweight champ at the end of the world. Would have been a lot easier if he had won his
What's
last
the
fight.
number again? What's the number?
45-1. 45-1.
And people laughed at you. We don't. To everyone that's watching the show right now, we have 928 people right now watching the show live. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. You can find the show at any of those 3 spots. A lot of you laughed at Austin when he gave out Steve Erceg. This was what? How long ago?
This was back in
Quarter
January.
one.
It's back
This
in
is quarter
January. Yeah.
one. This is January 2024. And next thing you know, he was in a title fight.
Yeah.
Just what, 8 months later?
Had
6,
a
7, 8
good
months later?
chance to
Whatever.
win it. Had a good
Yeah.
chance to win
And
it.
if he didn't make one bad mistake there, he arguably could have beat Pantoja.
Yeah.
I am blown away by the odds on this fight. Absolutely blown away.
Yeah.
I'm a big Kai Kara-France fan. I hammered this dude to knock out Cody Garbrandt. I've made lots of money on him. He got robbed in his last fight, I will say. But I cannot believe that Steve Erceg is not over a 2-1 favorite here.
Really?
I don't think Kai is better than him anywhere. I think he might have a little more pop in his shots, maybe. And even that's debatable. And I just don't understand. I think Steve Erceg is very high level, really good boxing, really good grappling, really good pressure and size for the division. I'm blown away. He's not minus 250. It feels very strange to me in this spot. It feels almost fishy. Maybe I'm crazy. You guys can tell me in the chat here. I also think that big shocker here, big shocker, but I think the submission is live again. 5 wins by submission in Erceg's career, 2 by knockout. Kai Kara-France has been submitted. I think if Erceg wanted to make this a grappling match, he could do it and win every round. I think that he's much better there. And if Kai is on his back, like if Steve Erceg is on top of him, I think he could find something as well. I mean, let's take a look. It's just crazy how often I like submissions. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, bro.
So
it's like I enjoy putting myself through the pain of losing submission bets. But 5 wins by submission, actually 6 wins by submission for Steve Erceg. Rear naked chokes, mounted guillotine chokes, rear naked chokes, arm triangle chokes. He's had a ton prior to the UFC. And before you guys say, oh, that's before the UFC, he's only had what?
4 fights.
1,
Four
2,
fights, right?
3, 4 fights in the UFC, right? And one was what? 4 fights in the UFC. So Kai Kara-France, on the other hand, been submitted 3 times. 3 times in his career. That's Brandon Royval, guillotine choke. And then his other subs were a long time ago. But again, how many grapplers is he really fighting?
Yeah, that Royval fight was crazy, bro. Like I actually think this is a close fight, and I say this probably benefiting more if Erceg ends up winning it.
That's
but
a great comment. You can show that. Sorry, Austin.
Okay.
From Mountain Time MMA down there at the bottom. That's a good comment to show.
Plans to make. He
grapple here. I mean, were you not impressed? Were you not impressed by how close he was in the grappling department to Pantoja? I mean, he wasn't as good, but he held his own very well. Pantoja could swim laps around Kai Kara-France in the grappling department.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I agree with you. But like the thing is, Kai is just very hard to take down. Like I think he won that fight with Askar Askarov. I want to say that was in Columbus a couple of years ago, where he just defended. Yeah, he defended 12 of 14 takedowns. How he did against Albazi. Albazi landed just 1 of 9. Like he's a hard guy to take down. And Erceg hasn't been super efficient against guys like Alessandro Costa and Dvorak. So I think Erceg's smart to mix it up and grapple, but I just don't think he's going to have a lot of success doing so.
But the one argument I'll make there, a guy like Amir Albazi, the takedowns are coming.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what he wants.
Yeah.
Erceg, the reason he can get these takedowns is because his striking is so good that he can use the striking to then get the takedowns. If you have a guy that's one-dimensional and is just going for takedowns, Kai Kara-France can stuff those. But in a striking exchange, Erceg can just go down there and get a single leg or a double leg or a trip, and he can take this fight to the ground. And I think if he lands the ground and pound, I don't think Kai Kara-France is gonna like that. I think he's gonna turn and give up his back. He hasn't fought in how long? Like, I'm just saying, bro. I think that Erceg is better everywhere here. I love him as a parlay piece at a -170 number. I think that's a phenomenal price to get on him. Didn't you say you liked Kai? You liked the number on Kai by decision though?
I do. So I've got that his most likely outcome. I've got Erceg at -130 here, so I'm showing like the smidge of value on Kai at this number. I got Kai at a way larger number than this. What did I get him at? So like it's kind of a moot point. It's like I have a number that doesn't exist, so I don't know why it matters.
Erceg to land a takedown is -160.
So I got Kai
at
plus.
I will hammer it. You see that comment?
What to land a
takedown is -160. I will hammer that.
Boy, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be tough, but I think he'll get one. I think he'll at least get one at some point in this fight because, like you said, he mixes the striking and the wrestling better. But like, I got Kai at plus 170. Thought it was a good number when I think this is a close fight that goes the distance. Don't have a huge amount of conviction for like Kara France is like a straight pick. Like I feel better, for instance, about Tuivasa than I do Kara France, but I do think there are some questions. Like Erceg had a close-ish fight with Costa. Pantoja doesn't have hardly any head defense, so um, I don't know how indicative that is of a guy with like Kai Kara France, very fast, plus 1.33 striking success rate, and I think he's motivated. That Albazi decision that went against him, a lot of people called a robbery. It really
Yeah.
kind of derailed his career. It derailed him as like a top contender in this fight. I think this might be like a y'all must have forgot spot. I say this where I'd rather Erceg wins, but I think Kai Kara France it's a close fight. It is a close fight. I would not blame anyone for taking a dog shot here.
Yeah. 100%. I mean,
So
I understand your viewpoint. I totally disagree.
yeah,
I totally
I
disagree.
hope you're right, bro.
I
Because if
think we're
Erceg is
this is the
impressive,
one fight. I think this is the one fight this card outside of maybe the Gamrot fight. I think the Gamrot fight and this fight were polar opposite, and I think we've aligned on a lot of the card otherwise tonight.
yes, exactly. And so, by the way, if Erceg round one subs Kai Kara France, best case scenario for me, because how do you not rematch him against Pantoja in December, right?
I think even if he round 2 or 3s him and looks
Yeah,
dominant,
yeah.
I mean, Kai France is a very good fighter, bro.
Yeah, we've seen Moreno, we've seen Royval. Does anyone think Albazi is better than Erceg? No. So
I'll tell you
maybe
one
Steve
thing:
gets another shot.
If Kai France comes out and knocks out Steve Erceg, he's getting a title shot.
Yeah, probably is, especially because he's an intriguing matchup for Pantoja because his entry level takedown defense is so good, and then the power in his hands. So
Yeah,
that'd be this flyweight's so good. I mean, this division's so deep; these guys are so close to each other. This is probably another example of it. But I don't even know who I'm going to be rooting for. I have a this week bet on Frank France. I have a late long term bet on Erceg. So I don't even know who I'm going to be rooting for. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. But Maddie, the time has come. Why don't we get to the main event so we can get people
yes, sir.
on their way in decent order here?
And
I
if you
know
guys
we're
are in the
aligned on
chat
this
right
one.
now, we got 1,008 people in the chat right now. We just hit
Yeah,
1,000 people
hell
right
yeah.
for the main event. This is perfect. If you guys are on Twitter or Facebook, come over to the YouTube channel, Mattybetts YouTube. It's much easier to comment and to see everything. I want you guys in the chat right now to give us your prediction for the main event. Don't just give us the fighter. Give us how the fighter wins. Do you have Adesanya by knockout?
Yep.
Do you have Du Plessis by decision? Tell us exactly who wins this fight and how in the chat. But I have a feeling Austin and I are gonna have a very big bet on this fight.
Yeah, I do. So Maddie, I mean, usually I let you go first. Can I go first on this one?
100%, bro.
So I have the largest individual money line bet I've ever had on a fighter in this fight. I placed it at plus 136 before I left Colorado. Obviously now in an illegal state in Texas. Placed it before I left Colorado. It is on Dricus Du Plessis to win this fight. I got plus 136. He's now shortened to minus 106 in some spot. Guys, this reminds me
What
so
number did you get?
plus 136.
Holy shit!
I got it, dude. I got it
Take the
right when
free
it
money
opened.
now. You can probably get Izzy at even money on some sites right now, or
Yeah,
minus 105.
yeah, the thing is though, I bet it right when it came out because it is ridiculous that Izzy is favored in this fight. Like I know who Israel Adesanya was, but he is 35 years old. And you look at him on paper like I do, he is a one-dimensional kickboxer that doesn't produce elite volume, doesn't have any grappling upside, and he's got a pretty good knockdown rate. It's 1.13%. But like Dricus Du Plessis has never been dropped, much less knocked out in an individual fight. His durability has been off the charts now in there
Not in the UFC.
against
Not in the
Robert
UFC.
Whittaker.
He did get knocked out in
I mean, but
2018.
he's been in the UFC since the COVID break at this point. Like it's
Yeah,
been a
yeah.
long sample of guys
Oh,
like,
for sure.
you know, and people might scoff, oh well, it was Darren Till, it was Derek Brunson, it was this, it was that. Izzy's been in
Yeah,
a lot of favorable matchups as well. What we just saw Du Plessis do to Strickland is something that clearly Izzy Adesanya couldn't figure out because he couldn't figure out Strickland's pressure. Du Plessis was able
yeah,
to win that pressure battle and have the center of the cage in that fight. I think the way I compare this matchup is Dricus Du Plessis is a souped up version of Marvin Vettori. His power is better, his striking is better. I think his wrestling is better, and
yeah.
maybe not his submission skills, but like we saw Izzy go to a
I
tight
think it
decision
is.
with
I
Vettori.
think it's better than Vittori's.
Maybe it is. But like we saw how close that fight was, and then Marvin was able to hang around all 5 rounds, maybe
Yeah.
arguably even one or two of them. I feel like Du Plessis is significantly more dangerous. It wasn't a surprise when I modeled him this week. I didn't even model this fight before I bet it because I knew I have Du Plessis
Yeah.
minus 195, and it feels to me it feels like when Conor McGregor came back, fought Dustin Poirier, bro, and everybody still favored McGregor there because he was Conor. He had the aura. He was going to do this. He was going to do that. Right, Izzy's 35, and I don't care that he's come back with all this muscular frame. He's still not going to out grapple Dust DDP. He's going to not be a more physical guy. Like that's just a given with Dricus Du Plessis. Now you tell me what's on
Mhm.
the line Saturday? Is UFC's going to South Africa? If Dricus ends up winning this fight, I'll take it, bro. I think Dricus should be favored in this one. I absolutely love Dricus here. I think he finds a way to get it done. I will talk to you about an individual method of victory after hearing your perspective.
Yeah. All right. So I got a lot to say here. Number one, I've been exceptionally good in Israel Adesanya fights. Number two, I've been exceptionally bad in Dricus Du Plessis fights. I took Whitaker
Interesting.
against Dricus. I took Sean Strickland against Dricus. I've been very bad in Du Plessis fights. And Whitaker was the last leg of multiple parlays when I had him, and I was at that fight live. Adesanya fights, on the other hand, I have absolutely printed money. I took Pereira round 3, 4, 5 KO in the first MMA fight. Round 5 hit at 30-1. I cashed that. It was a $11,000 win I hit on that bet. And then I took Sean Strickland at 5-1. I got him at 5-1 odds. We talked about that, and Austin, I have to give credit, had a lot to do with me taking that or going out and taking Sean Strickland on the money line in that fight. And I loved how that fight played out because if he would have knocked out Izzy in the first round, everyone would have said it would have been a fluke KO shot. But instead, he dog walked him for 4 out of the 5 rounds. So in this matchup right here, you can actually make the argument that at 185, Du Plessis might be a tougher matchup than Pereira. And I know that sounds crazy, but Du Plessis has the forward pressure and the grappling upside, whereas Pereira is hittable, and we saw that with Izzy on that counter shot. And Pereira was about to finish Izzy too. So I think I
Yep.
agree with a lot of what Austin is saying here. Adesanya's had a lot of favorable matchups. He's had a very good run. He's 35. Our buddy Clint had just told me today if Israel Adesanya wins this fight, he will do what no one has ever done in the UFC. And I think it was basically like uh, when you're a champion, you lose it, you win it and get it back. You lose it. I don't think anyone's got it back a second time ever.
Yeah.
I think John Jones maybe once because of the bullshit
Yeah,
loss, but
the
then again,
suspensions and the injuries.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then he sat out or whatever. I don't know. But my point is, think about how hard that is. The amount of fights Izzy's had, the age. Think about how hard it is to get your belt back twice
Yep.
against an up and comer who has shown incredible cardio and improvements and has looked really good in that Sean Strickland fight. I had Sean Strickland in that fight, and it was very tough. It was very close. And then we see what Strickland just did to Izzy. I think that also Du Plessis is a very intellectual guy. I think he's very sharp, very
Yep.
smart. I think he knows how to implement a game plan. He's not a fighter that just comes out and says, I'm going to do what I do the same way against anyone. Like some people say, I don't worry about my opponent. I just worry about me. No, he's more of a John Jones in the sense that he studies his opponent. He comes out with game plans. He's a very good fight IQ. And I think that's the way to beat Israel Adesanya. We saw Sean Strickland and his coach and his corner, they implemented a very specific game plan with Izzy, and it worked. And I think we'll see the same thing with Dricus Du Plessis here, maybe even with more grappling as well.
Yep. Absolutely, dude. I think that pressure strategy is going to be Dreykus's friend because we found out Izzy's a lot less effective if you can close the distance on him. If you're not able to let him have his distance kicks at whether it be leg kicks or high kicks or body kicks, whatever it be, he's just certainly a lot less effective. In his boxing defense, we saw him dropped in the first round by that. What do you think by a method of victory here? Because I have this modeled out. I got an interesting result. Just for an overview, if we both like Dreykus, inside the distance is plus 190. Are you thinking more like points or a lean toward that at that point?
Yeah, so I think in money line because I think all three options are
Sure.
literally live. Um, you're gonna laugh when I tell you which one I would prefer the most, but I think everyone in the fucking chat already knows.
Oh, a
It's a
submission.
submission. It's plus 750. We
Yeah.
saw it against Darren Till. There's that sick neck crank. I think when Dricus is talking at the press conference about he has a specific game plan to implement, I gotta believe it's forward pressure, controlled pressure that and then using the striking to then work in the grappling, get him up against the cage, get some takedowns, lay some ground and pound. And I think the submission's live there. But at the end of the day, I just like the money line in this fight. I don't think you even get cute. I think if you can get even money or better on it today, I think you find that number and you take it. I just think I'm done doubting Du Plessis. I've lost twice betting against him. I've made a shitload of money betting against Izzy. I'm going to keep doing that here. And I saw something in the chat that he's looking for a payday. Like Israel Adesanya is not looking for a payday, bro. He's very well off. Like
Yeah.
I think he legitimately hates this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know that's a good thing for Izzy. He's more of a technical guy with, does he want to get in a firefight here and walk forward? And I don't think so.
Just
So I don't know
Duplessis'
that.
durability's been so good. It's been so good. Like, hey,
Yeah,
he really wasn't even threatened by any of that.
they drive
Now I
picks in
say,
the chat. Hayden as a $4,000 bet. So you guys
yeah,
both have,
we
I
do.
think, one of your biggest bets of your careers both on this fight.
Yeah,
I can't go against you guys here. I'm riding with you. I'm gonna make a video on this fight here tomorrow for
I
social media. I'm gonna put it out,
so
but I'm
I
going
think
DDP, bro.
I've got Duplessis 33.1% by knockout. I think he knocks him out, whether it be by ground and pound or a distance. We saw Izzy get dropped by Strickland. Strickland's not a power puncher, bro. We saw Izzy have the Pereira issue in the 5th round that ended up losing him the belt the first time. By the way, guys, I'm
And we
sorry.
saw him
He was
almost
losing
get
to
knocked
Pereira.
out in round
Yeah,
two against Pereira.
yeah, bro, he was on wobbly legs. He wasn't playing possum. He says he was playing possum. Like, that was not a dude playing possum. That was a dude taking really bad damage from Poetan that ended up getting the right level of counter striking from an aggressive Pereira. Made a mistake. I honestly wonder what the line would look like for a Pereira Izzy 3, right? But like I don't think we get it here. And one last thing I want to point out before we move on here. Remember the Jan Blachowicz fight? Jan was able to take him down 3 times, control him as he didn't really have a path to get back to his feet. Dricus is a great wrestler. 3 takedowns per 15 minutes, 51% accuracy on those, and he always shoots. He took Sean Strickland down 6 times. Strickland has notoriously excellent takedown defense at 77%, exact same number as Izzy. So he's going to be able to mix in his takedowns here. I wonder what we would get like from a prop perspective on Du Plessis takedowns, but I like him here, and I think I like him by KO. I just have to ask myself how much I want to add to what I already put down, which is
Yeah,
always a better conundrum. But Maddie, why don't we move on to mix the parlays, bud? We'll send the people on their way
dude.
for UFC
Yeah,
305, build
let's
out
go.
their cards.
Got
Um,
so
let's
many.
see.
And Mike, if you can go full screen for us on the parlay. But yeah, let's whip up some. I mean, this is such a good card, bro. We got to do like at least 3.
Okay.
I think we got to do. How about we do this? Let me do a submission lay. Or no,
Okay.
let's do our safe parlay first.
Okay.
All right,
Let's
you
see.
pick a
So
leg and I'll go second. Pick a leg
we
that you
always
that.
remember safe in quotations because we always build this
Yeah,
thing up like
safe
5
parlay.
to 1.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
throw
don't know
this
if you're
out there.
down for this. My bad,
Okay,
my bad. Go ahead.
go ahead.
All
Tell me.
right, I don't know if you're down for this, but I'm down to go first fight of the night in the prelims and go under 2.5 at plus 126.
I really like that angle you talked to. Let's do it. Let's do Nickel
All right,
Aguilar. Just have something to sweat in the first fight of the night. Never hurts, right? Never hurts.
yeah. All right, can you
I like
actually
that.
put this in on your phone as we do it, and
I
then
will.
just screenshot
I
it and put it in Telegram, and then Mike will put it on the screen.
okay.
All right, so we got under 2.5 plus 126.
Oh boy, if I what do you think about either Duplessis or Tuivasa money line? Because we're both in
Duplessis.
full. Okay, Duplessis money line. We're gonna throw in there. That'll close the night out. So
And
I've
we
got
just need one more leg for
Duplessis.
this one. We just need one more
Yep.
leg. Um,
So we did a first last. Do you want to go in the middle with Walter Walker money line?
I'm down for that, or I'm down for Carlos Prates inside the distance.
Oh yeah, let's do Prates inside the distance.
All right, I like
I
that.
prefer that. Yeah, so we got first, in the middle, and last. It's a nice little parlay sandwich. I
It
love it.
is.
Let's take a look. So I'm gonna, if I can use FanDuel Sportsbook on my own phone. Let's see. Alrighty. So the three of those together plus 684. So that is Dricus Du Plessis money line, Prates inside the distance, and then under 2.5 rounds here. I'm gonna screenshot this bet slip and we'll throw it up there for everybody. I got it, Maddie. If you
okay,
shoot, which one of us is gonna win the race to Mike?
go ahead. You go ahead.
Alrighty.
So, Mike, if you
There
can
we
just
go.
type that out, he sent you the picture. If you can just type that
Alrighty.
out and put it in the chat.
Oh,
And then
okay.
yeah,
I mean,
let
I could
me.
have typed it in chat. I thought we were gonna put the picture up there.
Oh yeah,
But
go ahead if you want to type it out. You or Mike.
get some, yeah. So if you guys want to throw that up, plus 684. So again, let's see. We've got a little bit of Jesus in the chat. Jesus is tough, but I mean, Jesus by sub is one of the angles why we like the under there. So,
Yeah.
safe parlay in quotations. We've got Nickel Aguilar under 2.5. It's a flyweight under too. I love those flyweight unders typically.
Yeah.
Prates ITD and Du Plessis money line is plus 684. And if you want to throw that comment up on the chat, I just put that in YouTube's chat. Oh, there we go. Hey, look at that. We got a
Oh,
screenshot in the
cool.
chat.
There
Safe
you go.
parlay. So that's the featured parlay. Now, Maddie, for a couple more,
Yeah.
let's do some themes here. You want to do a submission one? I mean, it hit last week. I told you the shit was going to hit last week. So let's see if we can find shit that's hitting this week as well.
Yeah.
In the sub, I don't really have any subs showing model values. So curious what you might be thinking for a potential sub. Like you like Gamrot, I'm sure.
I mean, the thing is, so I'll ask the chat. Do you guys want like a long shot sub play, or do you just want like 2-1? Like last week, for example, we hit on the 23K parlay. It was a plus 275 and a plus 500. You want something like that, or you want like a long shot sub in there? Because I got there's a couple long shots that I like.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't a ton of.
Yeah, I'm
Here's what
not.
we're doing.
It's not an amazing prop week for me.
Yeah. Look
Let
at the
me.
people. We want the long shot, bro. Herbert sub. That would be epic. I would love that. All right, here's what we're doing, bro. I'm
Okay.
going Steve Erceg by submission at plus 700 as leg
Okay.
one. And then I'm going. I'm not doing a sub lay. I'm just putting that in there and I'm doing a second leg.
I just think it's tough.
Yeah. I'm just going 2 leg, okay? My second leg, I'm going.
Can I?
I'm
Can
going
I
Walter
put
Walker.
something?
I'm going Walter Walker inside the distance. Plus 320. And I'm making that my lay. Ready for this? This is like my sweet spot
Okay.
right here. 32 to 1,
Okay.
bro. That's like what I hit when I hit parlays. It's
Is
usually
that with
around 30
Erceg
to 1.
sub,
Here, I'm sending it to
Maddie?
Mike now. He's gonna put it in there. Let's see, it's coming over right now. I like this a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to be more conservative on this lay, you could go Erceg inside the distance, which is not really that conservative. Because I don't know that he's knocking out Car France anyways. But all right, the second parlay is coming into the chat here in a second, or on the screen in 30 seconds here. This is $100 to win $3,260. 2 legs. Steve Erceg by submission, and Walker inside the distance. Ground and pound or sub is my angle there. I like it late too, rounds 2-3.
I like it.
That's what I'm going for my long shot lay on the show. Let's build now one collab parlay.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, can I cook
No,
up a
go ahead, go ahead.
decision parlay? A decision
Oh,
parlay?
it's music to my ears for this car.
Okay. Sick. Alrighty. So let's see. Now, you're not out on a couple of these, but I know you're not all the way in.
Go ahead.
So I like Ramos decision, O'Neal
I'm cool with
decision,
that. What's the second one?
O'Neal decision.
Was that O'Neal's the second one or the third one?
The second one.
Okay, so
And now
O'Neal.
I gotta think if I'm gonna do a third where I would most want it.
Yeah.
I think I want to do.
I'm definitely cool with the Ramos one. O'Neal one, I'm down, but I don't love it.
Yeah. And
I think
then honestly, dude, I know you love Erceg, but I can't see Kai finishing Erceg, so I think I would throw Kara France in there as
oh
well.
god, I can't take that one, bro.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, if you want to give
Do
it
you see
out, that's
another
cool.
decision you
But
like? Do you see another decision you like on here?
let me put it to you this way: I would rather take fucking, I would rather take Tuivasa or Biggie Boy by decision than Kai Kara
Okay,
France.
well, okay, so that was another line of thinking is that if you want to do a total long shot, plus 19 to $10
But then why don't
wins
you just
one.
go 2 legs? So hear me out
That
on
is an
this.
Austin unit size long shot, baby. That is .1 units right there. $10 to win 1900. Ricardo Ramos, O'Neal, and Tuivasa all by decision. Plus,
God. All right.
I'm giving it out. I'm sending it to Mike.
All right. Here, let's do it. Let's do it. Now you could throw Gamrot decision in there for like a safer leg, not a safer leg, but
I would if Hooker wasn't going to finish him inside the distance.
true. Okay. We're actually unaligned on a lot the more I think about it. I mean, at least we're very aligned.
Yeah.
We're very aligned early, and then we're aligned on the main event, but that's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
The problem is I wish I could play. You know what I would love is if we got a line
Yeah.
for Jenkins 2-3 and Walker 2-3. I would love that lay if we had those specific
I
lines.
think you can.
I thought you could only do 3 or decision on FanDuel. Maybe some other books have it
KO
differently.
TKO round options. Jenkins 2-3 is plus 170 by KO.
Like overall?
By KO in rounds 2 or 3 is plus 170.
Oh, where is that? Where is
That's
that?
under KO TKO round combos at the very bottom of
Oh,
under
gotcha.
popular.
Oh, but it's
All right,
got to
well,
be a KO. Okay,
send
it's got to be a KO submission.
let's send that screenshot of the
Decision.
19. What's it? 190 to 1.
It is. I'm gonna play that. I'm gonna play the smallest amount possible on it just for the meme.
Has Tuivasa won decisions in the UFC?
Yes, he actually has. He had one over Andrei Arlovsky that he had lost by decision as well.
Okay, yeah, he won back in 2018.
Just so you're saying I have a chance.
Yeah, basically 11. Was it 11 to 1? 10 to 1?
It's 10 to 1. It's 10 to 1.
Not bad.
Watch him bust out some double legs, and all these people clowning me in chat end up eating their words.
Yeah, I like the Ricardo Ramos leg by decision at plus 350.
I think it's a good number.
I mean, Josh Culibao, Leroy Murphy didn't put him out, so I like that. I think Ramos is gonna have the physicality advantage. I'm gonna give out another leg here with Ramos by decision as one leg, and then the second leg. I'm really contemplating Du Plessis by decision at plus 410.
It's not a bad number. Let me see what I've. I mean, I'm going to show
Adesanya has
value.
been very durable. 22 to 1, bro. This is deja vu of last week. I think I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm putting it out here. It's going in the chat now.
How would I even hedge getting to Tuivasa decision? How do I even hedge? I maybe with Rozenstruik money line, but
you pray to God is all you do.
I like that 2-legger with Du Plessis, dude. Plus 21.95.
I like that a lot.
You should put that on a slip. You should put that on a slip.
Man, here's another crazy one. You could throw Ricky Glenn by decision. Plus 400. It's not even that crazy of a number.
Maybe that's your gut feeling there. I just feel like Song gets. I think Song gets the KO. If he doesn't, it's the saddest.
I'm leaving that out. But I just sent Mike. The 2-legger. So this is, if you want to go decision leg that's a little more conservative than Austin's, you could take a look at this one that I think he approves as well. We're about to.
It's a good number.
Put that on the screen here, and you guys can feel free to screenshot while you're watching the stream. Screenshot any of these parlays. I'm feeling lucky, bro. I really am. Going to the Hard Rock right after this video. Like, I'm literally driving to my house, packing, and driving to the Hard Rock. So the sportsbook's gonna be closed tonight, but I'm gonna be putting some of these lays in tomorrow.
You got PFL? You got PFL plays that you're looking at?
So I don't have a lot right now. I'm gonna work on that tonight. But I am considering IMPA inside the distance. I will tell you, there is one huge underdog here. Hold on. That I have to give you and get your opinion. It's the 8-0. It's the 8-0 Cuban dude. What's his name?
8-0 Cuban dude. Let me look at the card here as a whole.
Someone in the chat, give me the name. Lazaro Dayron against Danny Sabatello.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Plus 620, 8-0. Patchy Mix literally DM me on Instagram fucking 2 hours ago and said he's a live dog. Pat Downey told me he's a live dog. This dude is 8-0 and he's a 6-1 underdog.
Yeah,
I'm telling
Sabatella
you
is
right
not the most
now, I'm
reliable
gonna be at
customer.
that fight live. I'm watching it live. I'm sprinkling a band on that dog. 6-1. And
Yeah, Sabatella is not the most reliable customer either,
they're
bro. So
telling me that his wrestling is very good. And that's what you need against Sabatello.
it
So
is. That's Maddie. You've sold me. I wasn't gonna put. I mean, I think this is actually a weird PFL week where parlays aren't very good. Like, I
I
don't
think
like.
dogs are live across the
I
board outside of the
so
Impa fight.
yeah. So I like. We both were talking earlier. Kasangane inside the distance. I haven't seen a number pop out yet, but it's going to be plus money because the over 2.5 is like minus 220.
Yeah.
So Kasanga and I inside the distance is going to be plus coin. I'm going to take that. I like Clay Collard against Brent Primus. Like, I feel like Collard maybe getting sold low a little bit. I Collard by KO might be how I play that fight instead of the money line. I just
Mhm.
think it's weird he's plus 170 against a dude who's 40 years old and fragile. Um, Solomon Renfro was having success in Primus's last fight. It's weird to me. I like Elvin Espinoza, the explosive striker dude against Mans Brunel. That line's weirdly
Yeah.
flipped against me, which is a little concerning.
Yeah.
But now, Maddie, I'm gonna have to play Lazaro Dayron, undefeated kid. You said got the wrestling, and
I'm playing him, bro.
I'm not. I didn't. I looked at that Sabatello number. I'm like, that is weird and gross.
I'm not a
I'm
big
not.
fan of Sabatello,
Me neither.
honestly. I'm playing the dog there. We'll see what happens. I'm probably going to play Impa inside the distance. I'll have
Yeah.
probably 3 to 4 PFL plays out tomorrow afternoon on Twitter
Yeah.
at Mattybetts, Twitter, Telegram. I've given away over $1,500 in giveaways this week. Go join the Telegram. It's in my Instagram story. It's on Twitter. Go join the Telegram. We're approaching 5,000 members at the Telegram,
Yeah.
and go follow Mattybetts on Kick. We're streaming blackjack and multiple casino games 3 days a week now on Kick at
Okay.
Mattybetts. Giveaways every single night. Austin, I hit a 1,000 to 1 bet last night in fucking Plinko. I didn't even know what that game was until this past week. You sprinkle all these balls and they go down underneath, and you want the balls to go to the outside. And if they go down the middle, it's like 2 to 1. They hit the outside, it's like 1,000 to 1, 25 to 1, 9 to 1. I hit a $10 ball on 1,000 to 1. It paid 10 bands on one ball. I should have put 100 on it.
How'd you not learn Plinko, bro? You ever watch The Price is Right growing up? That's a
I never knew
classic,
what
dude.
Plinko
Oh
was,
my
no.
god, dude. Yeah, but no, that
But
was
I'm
electric. I saw
streaming
the
it
clip.
now 3 days a week. So usually it's gonna be like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Some days, some weeks it'll be different. But I post in Telegram and on Instagram every time I'm going live. I stream 6 hours a week on Stake, on Kick. It's electric. I never thought I'd be playing anything outside of blackjack or Ultimate Hold'em.
Yeah.
But bro, Plinko and Mines. Have you ever played Mines before?
I wouldn't know what it looked like. I'd have to watch I'd have to
It's
watch some
insane,
game.
bro. It's
Okay.
like Deal or No Deal, where you get cash out options and you just
Oh,
keep
okay.
gambling.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And yeah,
Okay.
and like you can't set a mine off. There's 25 squares inside of one square, and there's like 5 rows of 5, and you can choose how many mines are in the squares. So if you say, "Hey, I want 2 mines," that means there's 23 gems and 2 mines, and you keep picking squares, and if you keep winning gems, your cash out number goes up and up and up, and once you hit a mine, it goes to 0 and you lose your whole bet. It's
Ooh.
electric.
Oh boy. I mean, I can't. Maddie playing casino games. I'm looking at fantasy football stuff. We're finding different
Hey,
ways to
you
get our
gotta
picks
do
in.
what
But
makes you
hey,
tick. So,
yeah, absolutely, bro. Thanks guys for tuning in today. No, that's it for us. Like Maddie said, he'll have his card in full, both PFL, UFC in the coming days. I'm over at fanduel.com/research, my UFC betting. And if you play lineup DFS, my DFS helper out there tomorrow as well. I'm uncovering the spread tomorrow morning on the FanDuel Podcast Network with Jim Santos as well. So we'll talk some of these props, some of these money lines and stuff there. Also tell him that I got Du Plessis in the biggest bet of my life, so that'll be a lot of fun. We will be back next week. I don't think they're doing a week off. I know the Sphere's not too far away, but I'm checking the schedule
yeah.
right here in real time. We got Contender Series, and then next week we've got at the
Oh, yeah.
Apex, Jared Cannonier, Kyle Boralia. That's actually kind of a banger of a main event to see.
Very good matchup.
If
Very good
Kyle,
matchup.
yeah, good
A
matchmaking
great
by the
step
UFC.
up for Kaio Kaio's a guy that I bet against, and then he came on the podcast, and Gilbert and Wakano and Kyle all made fun of me for betting against him. I'll tell you what, I've thought very highly of Jared Cannonier. He really disappointed me in his last fight. Now it was
gets him
somewhat of
above.
an early stoppage, but
Yeah.
he's got to be better in that spot. Caio Bravo is live. He's going to implement the grappling in this fight. He's going to be the bigger guy. I don't know what the odds are in that fight. I'd imagine he's a small favorite.
I who knows, man. We'll take a look and we'll have a play for it next week. But that'll be for next week. So Maddie, we'll let these guys go on their way. Thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, we hope you guys have a great UFC 305. Hope all your bets cash. And hope Maddie wins some more in Plinko.
Let's go.